All right, folks. Looks like I'm live. Just wanted to say hi to everyone. Today's session, or this particular session, I know you guys have probably been here for a while watching all sorts of different content. The session that I'm going to be presenting right now is the barrier-free grant applications and review process. And this is a collaboration between FormAssembly and Plative. Just moving on to the next slide here. So just a brief introduction. My name is Samuel Lim. I'm a delivery manager for Plative. We are a consulting firm originally based out of New York, but we are pretty much scattered all over the world. I've been with Plative for over 7 years, but in the Salesforce ecosystem for, gosh, probably over 10. I live and breathe in the nonprofit space as well. So even though Salesforce was originally, obviously a sales platform, I work primarily with nonprofits ranging from all of the, the smallest mom and pop shop all the way up to some pretty massive foundations and everywhere in between. I've done work with educational side of things, on the grants management side of things, and also a lot on the fundraising side. And so just kind of looking at some of the participants here, it looks like we're getting really good representation from nonprofits, education space. So welcome everybody. Really excited to have you here. A little bit about Plative. So we are a top tier implementation partner for Salesforce and NetSuite. So there's two sides of the house for Salesforce because we truly believe that the CRM and the ERP really play nicely together, and what better tools to use than Salesforce and NetSuite. So a lot of our implementations are on both sides of the house, where we will build out the CRM, we'll build out the ERP side of things, and then we'll build the bridge in between to sync data back and forth. We are one of the premium partners with Salesforce, and that's pretty hard to get. It's all based on your customer satisfaction ratings, so we're really privileged to be one of their premium partners. Plative, I think today we've grown up to about 160 employees scattered again all over around the world. We have a huge presence here in the United States, but also in Canada. And we also have consultants in Philippines, India, South America. Really great reach all over the place. We are, our size is good in the sense that we're big enough to have the right resources for your project. We're not scrounging around trying to pick out different resources for particular things. We have a pile of great talent ranging all the way from our business analysts all the way up to really seasoned architects and developers as well, and everyone in between. But on top of that, though, even though we're big enough to have the resources, we're also small enough to give you that same boutique feel, right? All of our solutions are custom. We're all about hearing what you need and building something that's going to enhance your business processes and make a big impact in your organization. We have over 3,000 completed projects under our belt. And out of that 3,000, 1,000 at least are nonprofits. So we play very heavily in the nonprofit space. We understand the issues that nonprofits face. We're super familiar with the budgets that y'all have and struggle with. We're familiar with the politics. We're familiar with just being able to implement change in your organization. So if change is what you're looking for and you need help implementing change, both at the business level and at the technology level, we're definitely open to taking a listen to what you need and working with you. All right, so on that note, with introductions out of the way, let's go into our session. So barrier-free grant applications and reviews, what is that? And just taking a look at the audience here again, because we have so many folks here in the nonprofit grant-making space, and also from the education space, I think a lot of your world does involve some degree of applications. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily grants, but imagine folks who are applying for grants, applying for scholarships, applying to get into programs, right? So that's kind of a way of life for us. We find that sometimes the tools get in the way, right? The tools are sometimes difficult to use, hard to navigate. Sometimes they're really complex. And then not only is the application side of it difficult, but the review side is difficult as well. How do we get the right people in front of the reviews? How do we make sure that all of the scores are tracked and in the system. So all of those challenges are the topics that we're going to be taking on today. All right, so moving right along, let me talk to you about the particular client. So this particular presentation, I'm going to walk you through the client, what are the challenges that they're facing, what their current process looks like, and then how we were able to solve the issues, those barriers that we were talking about through different solutions within Salesforce, within the Experience Cloud, and of course using FormAssembly to help with that. Okay, so a little bit about the client. They are, in this particular example, they are a big community foundation, one of the top 50 in the US. They're all about driving local equitable action in the support of the community, right? So that's one of the great things about community foundations, is that they are focused on local businesses, local organizations, and helping them out. So no exception here. They are, because they're a community foundation, they also do a lot of donor advised funds. And so they are managing over 1,200 charitable funds, which is a pretty significant portfolio. They invest millions annually to advance education, economic vitality, and racial equity within their communities as well. The last stat there, 13 to 1,500 grants per year, I think that's out of date from recent in working with them. I think this year has kind of blown way past that marker already within the first quarter. So we're seeing a huge uptick in the need for this particular foundation in their community. So we're very honored to be involved in their project and helping them along in that process. All right, so the ask. They came to Plative looking for some help to revitalize their portal. And even though their portal is pretty vast, they wanted us to focus on one specific use case, and that is the application or the grant application portal and the reviewer portal. So kind of two sides of the same coin, right? What they wanted us to do was to help remove the barriers for grant applicants who are coming in, logging into the portal for the first time, filling out an application form, getting that into the system. And as you know, those folks who need help, they don't have time to sit and wade through pages and pages of documentation. They got their day jobs, they got their own issues to worry about. They need to be able to get in, get their application done fast, and be able to ask for the help that they need, right? So that was one of the barriers that we needed to really help with them with. And the other side of the coin was, as those applications are coming in, you need reviewers to come in and actually perform the scoring, making sure that the right awards are being handed out. So we needed to remove the barriers for all of those reviewers that were coming in and doing those application reviews. And overall, the overall goal here is just to make that organization more slick, more streamlined, and ultimately to have a greater impact on their community. Okay, so next what I'll do is walk you through what their grant management process looks like. And I boiled it down to really 8 basic steps, and we'll go through each one. And then after this, I'll walk you through a screen-by-screen demo of what that process looks like, okay? So at the very beginning, a grantee or an organization looking for some funding will create an account on their portal, okay? So they're gonna navigate to the main homepage, click on Apply for a Grant. They get to create their own user. And this is all done in Salesforce Experience Cloud. So this is, for those of you who are familiar, this is giving them portal access to Salesforce. It allows them to basically interact with their own profile, set up their own information, and also a place where they can log in and see statuses of their applications and their payouts as well. But the first step is all about creating that user in the system. Once they're in, they get to browse through a list of different funding programs, see which one matches their need, and go ahead and apply for it. Then the next step is filling out that application form. And this is, a range from really basic application forms to some fairly complex ones where they're going to need to upload things like their budget, their goals, some of the things that they struggle with, their guide star, EIN information, board of directors, all of that kind of stuff needs to get it filled into that application form. And that's where we use FormAssembly, and you'll see that later on in the demo. But FormAssembly is the key part of this part of the flow. And same with the next one too. So once they submit that form, we use the FormAssembly connector to push all of that data right back into Salesforce. So it's all in one database. What's great about that as well is the FormAssembly connector has a bunch of automation capability where we can do duplicate checking. We can make sure that, hey, if this contact already exists or this organization already exists, we're not creating a new one. We're just simply updating that with the latest and greatest information. And I'll show you that as we get further down in the demo there. All right, so that's kind of the first half of things. Now we have a pile of application forms that we need to review. At this point, what you want to do, or what they're trying to do, is put together a volunteer pool. And these are folks, they're either staff members or volunteers within the community who are going to help out with that review process. So they're going to assemble that team. And then it comes the tedious process of assigning all of those applications that have come in to the reviewers, those volunteer reviewers. And so and I'll show you this in a second here, but we built out a custom tool for them to help with that assignment. And it's in the form of a matrix. So you can see all of your application forms, you can see all of your reviewers, and you're simply clicking checkboxes to build those assignments. Once the assignments are done, then the reviewers can then log into the portal. And once they log in, they're going to see all of the reviews assigned to them, and they can go ahead and start with their review process. All of their scores are logged directly in FormAssembly and into Salesforce. So again, it's all in one place. We can run reports on it. We can do all of the math in the back end, and then finally award and pay out those lucky folks who were able to get funding. Okay. So that is the 8-step process. And now I'm going to jump in. Oh, actually, what we're going to go into next are what are the pain points that we were trying to solve specifically with this process, right? So those barriers. So the first one that they identified was, number one, the difficulty in managing and assigning reviewers. So imagine you have a pile of applications, you have 20 reviewers who are volunteering, they're all excited, but how do you get them to the right spot? And how do you make sure that every application has a reviewer? And how do you also ensure that the work is evenly distributed out over all the different reviewers? So I'll show you that solution, but it's basically, as I said, it was a matrix that we were able to build out. And I see a question here from Caitlin for payout. Is that also conducted through this portal, or is this handled externally? Yes, so the payout decision is handled within Salesforce, so that when that portal user logs in, they'll be able to see the status. You know, it's still under review, or it's getting paid, or it has been paid. The actual mechanics of payout will happen in the ERP system. So when you sync that disbursement record from Salesforce over to the finance team, they can actually go ahead and cut the check or do the ACH payment from that system. All right. And that's a whole different presentation I can talk to you all about. So we'll save that for another time. The second barrier here that I want to talk about is reviews being done outside of the system, right? And sometimes we see that. We see organizations who, you know, they've been around for a long time. Folks are used to doing their PDF reviews or emails or whatever. We want to get everything all into one system. So that was one of the things that we were able to solve. The next one is a lot of manual scoring. So again, if you're on a spreadsheet or on a PDF and you're scoring things manually, well, someone needs to do the math later on. So the benefit of having all of that in Salesforce, it allows us to automate the math in the background, make sure that everyone's filling out the scores in the right way, and then having one central database to do all of that, to collect all of that information. And then the last thing is the review window confusion. So imagine if you were logging into a portal, you had 20 applications to review, but each application has a scorecard associated with it, and you're flipping back and forth between all of these screens. It gets confusing, it gets tedious, and it slows you down. So we were able to solve that by building a special user interface that shows both the application and the scorecard all at one time. in a side-by-side panel. And that way we're eliminating accidentally assigning the wrong scorecard to the wrong application, et cetera. So everything is concise. Okay. All right, perfect. Let me jump over to the next screen. So the next series of slides here, I'm just going to show you screenshots of what that whole process looks like, and I'll describe and narrate through that process and what it looks like for them. Okay, so this is the self-registration page for the portal, and it's very similar to any self-registration page. All of it was built within Salesforce Experience Cloud. So we were able to leverage a majority of the out-of-the-box functionality. Some of the customizations that we did here were things like duplicate checking. So if you already had an account in this particular Salesforce org, but you entered your name again, the system would actually flag that, and it would send you an email saying, hey, we've noticed that you're trying to log in here, but you already have an account. Would you like to log in instead? It would also, basically making sure, because I know that a lot of times we have duplicate issues when we just allow people to self-register. So we were able to solve that through some custom logic in the back end. Once that grantee logs in, they can now browse through all of the different funding opportunities. Now, this is pretty much standard grant making that comes bundled with NPSP as an add-on. But what we've done is presented it in a way on the portal where it shows you only specific funding opportunities that are available for this particular program. And we can also link that to specific organizations as well. So basically at this point, once you find that funding opportunity that you want to apply for, you hit the Apply Now button, and that'll bring you to the application form. Now, I've done a couple of screenshots here of the application form. Now, this is a 4-page application. I've copied in, I'm showing you page 1 and the last page. And as you can see, all of this is built on FormAssembly, so you'll probably recognize the layout and all of that. It has all of the bells and whistles that your FormAssembly form can do. So the Google Translate, it can do custom logic, conditional fields that pop up and go away depending on things that you selected. It handles all of the different form field types like text or numbers, whatever. It also has things like save and resume. So if you were to, finish page 1 and 2, but you have to go for dinner and you got to come back later and finish this off, we've set it up so that it'll actually save the record right into Salesforce. So even if it's not complete, someone on staff can log into Salesforce and see the partially completed application form, figure out where you're stuck at, and help you out. So it's a really good benefit. FormAssembly gives you the choice whether or not you want to save it on their database or push the incomplete form directly to Salesforce. So really handy tool here. One of the things I wanted to point out to you, though, is that you notice that this form is actually embedded inside the Experience Cloud, which is pretty cool. So now instead of, sometimes when you have a fill in the form, you click on a link and it takes you out of the portal and you're on a separate link. And then once you're done there, you have to navigate back. You don't have to here. Everything's embedded right into the Salesforce Experience Cloud. So it has that really unified feel. Okay. All right, moving on to the next tab. So yeah, basically at this point, they're going to fill in their application form. They're going to hit submit, and that's going to create the record into Salesforce. Now, those of you who are familiar with NPSP grant management, you're going to recognize the funding request object. It's basically the place where we keep all of our questions for the application forms, and those we've hidden in the background just because they get unruly once you show them all. But every funding request has a series of different statuses. So the goal here is to, walk these applications through their statuses, making sure that they get reviewed, making sure that they get awarded, et cetera. Okay. All right, so at this point now, assuming that several people have gone in and applied for funding, you are going to have a pile of funding requests sitting in our queue. And this is where that matrix comes in. And so this is the custom matrix that we built for them. So what you're going to see is on the left side, you're going to see a list of all of the application forms or the funding requests that have come in. Across the top, you're going to see all of the different reviewers who volunteered to help out with the review process. And simply by clicking on any of these little check boxes, the system will create a scorecard or a review record and attach it to the funding request and to that reviewer record so that you know which reviewers are assigned to which applications. And as you can see, we can link one application to multiple reviewers, or we can review one reviewer to multiple applications. So it's a many-to-many type of relationship, and it gives you very much flexibility in how you want to assign things out. So at a glance, we can easily see what the distribution looks like, and we can easily adjust things as well. We also have the capability, I don't think we show it here, but if there is a conflict of interest, we can also flag that here as well. So sometimes a reviewer will start reviewing an application and say, oh, you know what, that's my brother-in-law. Let me put this as conflict of interest. It will automatically remove you as a reviewer, and it'll be visible on this matrix so that that application can get reassigned to somebody else. All right, so now that we've done all of our assignments, our reviewers are now free to log into the portal, and it's the same portal, and take a look at their list of reviews. So what's unique about their experience is because we know that these folks have reviews assigned to them, a special menu item will appear, and when they click on this reviews menu item, it'll bring them to a special part of the portal where they get to see all of their assignments, click on one of them, and open the review page. And this is what it looks like. So on the left side, you can see the application form saved in a PDF format. So they cannot update this left side. This is a read-only thing. And they can scroll through and see all of the different pages in the application form. They can even click up into this application file section and look at any uploaded files that the applicant has uploaded. You can zoom in and out and all standard PDF stuff. But what's really cool is on the right side, we see their scorecard, right? And there's no way to get mixed up. This scorecard is unique to this application and to the reviewer, and it's always linked so you never get confused. So what you end up doing is you're scrolling on the left, reading it through, and as you're reading, you're scrolling on the right side and filling in your evaluation and your score. Okay, so all of this happens in this two side-by-side panel review page, and this allows them to stay organized and submit their reviews as efficiently as possible. So once they submit the reviews, all of those go into the system, and then now the committee can go ahead and make their decisions. So what's great about Salesforce is the reporting engine is incredibly intuitive and easy to use. And so you can create your own custom reports. Here's an example of one where we're listing out all of the funding requests on the left side here. And then each funding request will have multiple reviewers. Each reviewer can recommend an amount that they want to grant out to that particular funding request. They'll answer specific questions, and then you would have a column for their final recommendation, whether or not they want to go ahead with the grant or not. And so in one table, you're able to pull a huge summary of all of the different results that have come through, and then know at a glance which grants we're going to be giving out. Okay. So that pretty much concludes the demo, and I just want to kind of bring everything back to the pain points and what we were able to do to solve them, right? So at the very beginning, difficulty managing and assigning reviewers, all of that was done through that matrix, building out all the objects within Salesforce. It was a little bit of custom work, but I think it was worth it. It really helped with their usability, getting their staff to go ahead with the assignments, and it removed that barrier there. Reviews being done outside of the system, that was definitely something that we were able to use FormAssembly's capability of being able to embed into the Experience Cloud, really brought a unified feel to the entire solution. We got rid of a lot of the manual math errors and stuff. And then we were also able to solve the confusion of multiple windows by building that side-by-side panel view. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. Okay, I got a question here from Scott. How did you get the double side-by-side screen like that? So we have a development team here at Plative who takes care of all of those Lightning Web components. So it is a bit of development on the Lightning Web component side of things, leveraging FormAssembly's ability, because they also have a Lightning Web component that you can embed into the Experience Cloud. So it's a combination of that. It's a combination of then also embedding the PDF viewer as well. So there's a bit of custom work that had to go in there. Does that answer your question, Scott? All right, perfect. So with the remaining minutes that I have left, I'm happy to answer any questions. How to connect from Salesforce to the FormAssembly form. All right, so in this particular example, there were a couple ways to do it. Most of the time we would just simply click a link and that'll link you out to FormAssembly. But in this particular example, we used FormAssembly's special Lightning Web component. And that's one of the widgets that you install in your Salesforce Experience Cloud. And it basically, when you create that widget, it gives you a field to specify the ID of the form that you built in FormAssembly. And once you specify that ID, it'll embed that form right in your Experience Cloud. Scott, I hear you. Yeah, I'm a mere mortal, and that's why I don't do that kind of work. I rely on my dev team. I'm very fortunate to have a team like that where I can just say, I'll draw a picture and go, hey, this is what I want. Can you please build that? And they'll take care of that for me. For sure, Galinda. Any other questions? All right, Linda has a question. Oh, no question. Just wanted to say, oh, thank you so much. You work for the United Way. That's great. Absolutely. Yeah. The United Way is massive. I can't imagine how many forms and the multiple forms you're going to have to deal with. Form assembly is also great at managing that too. So you're not alone. I think one of the struggles is when you have, every month or every quarter, you're creating a new application form. How do you manage all of those different versions of those forms? And then how do you sync all of that into Salesforce? Because eventually you're going to build up such a library of different questions that it gets really confusing. So we've dealt with that a lot. I totally feel your pain. There are ways around it. Form Assembly also has really cool solutions on the back end on how to make custom variable questions as well and sync them back into Salesforce. All right, I think we're getting near the end. So I just wanted to thank you all very much for your attention. It was a pleasure presenting to you. Thank you for making the effort to come out, and I hope that you have a great rest of the conference. I'm sure there's plenty more interesting things to see. And so if you have any questions as well, I think we have our link to Plative somewhere in the chat or on the website, so feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.